All right, hey there. How you guys doing? My name is Jeff at Big Hairy Dog, and I guess we'll be looking at physical inventory in I guess it's Prism, right? Is that what we're doing? So, just double checking my ducks, make sure they're in a row, so to speak. Um, this says physical inventory webinar, doesn't it? So is this V9 or Prism? Which one are you guys connecting for? You can chat, by the way, if you don't have a mic. I get it. Totally get it. Looks like my ducks aren't in a row.
Prism.
I'm here for Prism, Jeff.
Yeah, I thought it was Prism too, but my schedule doesn't say that. So, yeah, I prepared for Prism. I think it's Prism. I think we're gonna all go with Prism, right? So, all right then. So let's take a look at Prism, right? So this is my little cheat sheet that I share with everybody when I do physical inventory training, and it's a good place to start just to get our heads clear, make sure we're all on the same page. There's 4 steps. This whole process, 4 steps only. That's it, right? So there's start, there's count, there's the discrepancies, and then there's the update. That's it. Physical inventory in a nutshell. It's always been that way. It doesn't matter what software you're doing, right? So to recap here, you start, that creates a count sheet that establishes the goal of what we're going to hopefully find. Then we go count and find out what the actual number is. We compare the two, and the discrepancies, we fix what's wrong and what errors we made, and then we accept the numbers. That's it, right? That doesn't really matter what software you're in. Okay, so this is just Prism. This is 2.4, so make sure we're all help about. I'm on 2.4.1.1034. There's I don't know, 3 builds past this in 2.4, and 2.5 just came out. We have not tested it. We're not putting anybody on it yet. We're going to go do a little testing and make sure we know what's going on with it before we put it in production, but it looks kind of exciting. All right, so store operations, merchandise, physical inventory, right? This starts an inventory. I can cancel this. I can switch it to a different location if I want to, right? So I can go to wherever I want to be in 2.4. Now, earlier versions didn't have this store menu. So if you're on an earlier version, you either have to start the inventory at the store, at the one you're at, or you have to migrate your workstation into that store and then start it. Then you can migrate your workstation out and go do your stuff if you're at the main and you want to conduct it at the main via getting the counts remotely. So for now, I think we're just gonna hit the start button here. You got to name it, right? So normally you'd name it something like I don't know, the store probably name, and then something like June 2025 or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? And then if we start with a filter, that means you're gonna do like a cycle inventory or a small inventory. You're going to just count men's apparel or something. If you start with a filter, then the count sheet's only going to have those items in it. And if you start, say you filter for men's apparel and you count something in jewelry, it's going to say not found because it's not in the count sheet, right? Which is good because you can't then update it and wipe out the quantities, right? So we're going to start for everyone. And anybody who has questions, please dump them in the chat, or go ahead and ask them. I'm pretty open that way. Guess we should put the E in there. I think I typed an E, but it just didn't make it, did it? Create. Okay, step 1 done. Hey, much to step 1. Step 1 is just to hit the start button, and when you hit the start button and then you check it off and you go into the PI sheet, step 1 basically takes and establishes these starting quantities. That's all it does. And it just copies these out of inventory, right? So, if you have stored at 48 on hand, it copies it over to the start column. We have not counted anything, so we're short everything, right? That's a good clean start. That's how a start works. So we have a count sheet. Count sheet is ready to rock and roll. So step 1 is amazingly easy, right? So You can do a physical inventory in 2 different modes. And so I could pop out here and we could take a quick look at that. And then when you're in preferences inside the company above the stores, that's the sweet spot, right, for preferences. And if we go down here to merchandise, PI sheet, we can see that I'm set to use zones as opposed to doing a simple physical, right? I am a big proponent of using zones. Zones, I think, are very, very powerful, very strong tool. And people get kind of scared off by zones. A zone is whatever you want it to be. So a zone is the back wall. The zone is that fixture. The zone is this corner, this room, my office, right? It's whatever I want it to be. A zone is a geographic location on the floor that I want to have a start and end point. I want to count. I want to review what's in there, and if I like it, I want to accept it, right? Or I want to be able to delete it and redo it without it affecting the master count, right? So, big fan of zones. I've had a few clients that get away with doing simple physical, and they do it very well. But the client I'm thinking of had like 80 items in inventory. So for them, it was easier to just print a list and go count them and key them in. You know what I mean? And so for 80 items, I'm gonna say that's an exception to the normal physical inventory environment. Most of us have more than 80 SKUs. So yeah. All right. So then in here, if I'm doing physical inventory and I have zones, then the next step would be to go into zones. And now, as soon as I hit the start button and I create the inventory, the person who's running the inventory, like if I'm running the inventory and I've got a bunch of guys scanning for me, these are my guys back here that are scanning for me, right? They could go start scanning their respective sections, right? And I could start putting these zones in, right? So here I'm going to say new zone, and I'm going to give it a name. So the name, you got a couple of characters here to play with, right? So 20 characters is a decent amount of characters, right? So if you're a multi-store environment, you're doing zones on multiple stores simultaneously, which is kind of rare. Usually people nowadays in the current software, 9 and Prism, they actually do the physical at the store and they start the thing in the store and the zones are in the store. And therefore the zones aren't going to mix with other stores' zones. But if you have a situation like that where you're running more than one in the same installation, then you're going to see mixed zones. So I'm going to say, put the store code in front of it, right? Make yourself easy. Then for me, it would be, like something like men's, 001 or something, you know what I mean? Like whatever numbering sequence you have. So back here on my little cheat sheet, so to speak, I don't really go over this much on the top here, but you need to be cleaned up. You need to be tagged. You need to have created a map. You need to know where these zones are. You need to know how the plan of counting, what are you going to do, right? And you need to go and label those sections with little like post-it notes that says this is section 101, this is section 102, right? So if you've prepped the store well and you've pre-counted what you can and you've labeled things, the count should go smooth. Any questions? No? All right, so we name our zone, we click create right now. So we could just sit here and we could start building these, right? So you can't actually make a zone until you have a physical to house that zone. But once you hit the start button and they start scanning, you could start putting these in, right? So, I could say that this is, the store is SAC and this is women's, and this is 001 or whatever I want to do, right? Whatever keeps your head straight, right? That's what you do right there. So then at some point, one of these people have finished their count and they come back and they want to hopefully upload the count, right? So there's different ways to put the count in, right? We could key it in, not my first choice. We could import it. So by import, I mean you could have done a count in Excel or in a notepad or something, and you could then be importing it. We're going to play with that in a minute. In the best way, obviously, would be, I'm going to grab this over here real quick. This is a TC21. This is a Foundry Logic mobile scanner, right? So this one here has got the the barcode reader built into it, and it's got the little foundry logic screen, which you can't see because contrast ratios are really not working well for me there, is it? Um, so Foundry Logic is the preferred method. Very nice software. We're not here to go over Foundry Logic today, but it is very nice. You can start and save multiple zones and name them. So if I was scanning in that device, I would name it, SAC WMN001. It would come across and it would be in the list, and then I would match my zone name up with the zone name up that matches and upload that count, right? So maybe we should do those in the future. I don't know. I've got an installation. We could have done that today, but it wasn't listed that way, and I did not think to prepare for that since we didn't know that anybody had even registered. I don't know why we didn't know that, but apparently we didn't. All right, so I've got a zone. I want to upload some stuff, right? There are different kinds of scanners out there, so I'm just going to mention in passing that my phone has a scanner app on it that I downloaded that can scan things. Now, the difference between the scanner app on my phone and the scanner that's built into to the Foundry Logic is that Foundry Logic has a synchronized database, right? So the Oracle database syncs up to the SQL database that Foundry Logic uses, and then that database is then downloaded to that device, right? Where my phone is just using a scanning system where basically it reads the barcode and decodes it and associates a quantity with it. That's a dumb scanner. So it doesn't know what the barcode represents. It just knows that for that barcode, there's a count of 5, right? So when you upload that count, if you get an error, you get an error at point of upload as opposed to getting an error at point of scanning, right? Big difference. So so this is nice because it says, hey, this item's not in the database. Do you want to force it in? And you say, no, I don't actually. And you pick it up, you move it over to a trouble section so someone can identify the problem and we can count it as the last scan, right? Get it properly tagged. So I mean, you can get by certainly with a dumb scanner that they've worked well for years. And with a dumb scanner, you're better to have zones that are smaller and easier to troubleshoot. I mean, that being said, they need to be like 30 minutes worth of work. It's like you don't want to scan 3 items and say, hey, I'm done. But then again, if you scan half the store and then you find an error in that, it's real hard to find it, right? So zones are pretty powerful tools to help you manage that process. All right, so we're going to take this thing here and we're going to go into the zone sheet. And in the zone sheet, we're going to go to imported. And down at the bottom, it says import. And I checked, I think I have a few zones that I can play with pretend uploading here. So, wow, I don't even know. I'm just going to go with this one here. And so, so if I have had clients that do this, that they take like for very expensive items like kayaks or something that are $2,000 or $3,000 a pop, you might actually take a laptop and do the count in Excel, right? Export them out, know exactly how many you have, go find them and make sure that they are there carefully, if you see what I mean. So in that situation, we would save the CSV, the Excel as a CSV, and it would have the SKU and the count, right? And that's all we would need. And then we would have a map built to match that. We would go continue. We would go choose a file. And I think I'm going to roll the dice that those ones I saw on my desktop are going to work. We're going to find out here, though, right? So I selected a zone. I click import, and it brings the items in. Right, boom, just like that. So the scanning process with the Foundry Logic would be very similar. It would differ only in that there would be a button over here in the sidebar menu. It would say import items. When you clicked on it, it would bring you up to a little Foundry Logic menu, and you'd see the names of the zones as they named them, right? And I don't even know if I can, let's see here. Nope, that is not what we're looking for. Oh, I don't even know if you can see this here, but I'm going to try and see if it fails miserably. It probably is going to fail miserably. You can't even see that, can you? No, you can't even. She's breaking up, Captain. We can't hold her. All right. Well, all right. So right now it's called PI_7 is the zone. And so all I wanted to do is I wanted to hold down my finger on this thing and it says rename. Now I could type in the name, right? So I'm just typing in WMN 001, for instance, and okay. And now it's got the name I gave it. So when it came up in the menu, it would have that name, right? So I think we've established that. I don't want to waste your time on that. So in here, when this thing uploads, if you have a dumb scanner, you could get bad scans, right? You could get scans into this screen here, and we could do that. I could show you how that works. If you don't get any bad scans, then all these are good, right? Then we might go print, and we might want to have a I don't know if that's the one I'm looking for. Let's try that, and let's see how close that is. Okay, all right, that is not what we're looking for. Wow. All right, so let's go try this one here and see what that one does. I have some better designs. This one's not bad though. So um, yeah, this one's not exactly perfect, but I can help. I've made designs like this that works. I wasn't totally ready for this because they canceled it and then they decided it wasn't canceled the last second. But in a zone, that item could exist in more than one place in the store, right? So if I'm counting this fixture and this item's in this fixture, it could also be in the stockroom. It could also be on display. There could be one on held in the manager's office. It could be everywhere. So we don't care about the start quantity. We don't care about the discrepancy. All we care about is the scan in that zone. Like horse blinders on, is this zone captured correctly? That's all I want to know. When I print a zone, if I highlight 12 random items and you go check those 12 random items, you better not find any discrepancies in those 12 counts. If you sample those items in that zone, you should find no mistakes. If you find a mistake, then go deeper and find out, are we keeping this scan or not? Right, that's what it comes down to. If there's only 3 items that are wrong, and I just go fix them, right? So, if these 3 items are wrong, and that's all that's wrong with this zone, so then I could say, all right, good. Then I'm just going to go change the this. What do we got here? We got to go to scanned, or no, we're back on import, right? So we just imported these. You've got to merge this. I have a note about that too, but let's go over to scan. Now they're in scanned. Now I've got my scan quantity. Can I change the scan quantity? Yes, I can. I can just go in here and change this, right? So if I find a few mistakes, but overall the scan's good, it stands, then I fix the a few mistakes I find, and I say it's good, right? So once that is corrected, we close it, right? Then we would want to say to accept that zone. So if it's in the stockroom and it's on the floor, the counts are going to merge, right? So we have to literally merge them. So actions here, mark that, and then merge marked, right? So that one's marked. The women's one is not. I'm going to merge marked. That one's now part of the master count, right? Now I want to go. I want to go get. I want to go make a mistake. So we're going to open this zone up, and we're going to throw something in here that ain't going to work, right? All right. So we threw a red herring in there, right? Save. So we go into our zone and go to our zone sheet. Typically, we would go to import, and or we would then go, if we got a scanner, we'd go to the scanner button, which is in the sidebar. For me, I'm going to go on import. I'm going to say import at the bottom, and I'm going to grab my map, and I'm going to say continue and choose that zone again that I just hacked up, right? So we'll choose that one. We'll open it and import it. And we get an error that says contains a bad scan, right? So now if we go to the bad scan, we see the bad scan, right? There's the one I typed in. And I could now see, I do either do item lookup, right? or I think I could also, yeah, clear selected item, right? Or clear all. So, it depends on what you're going to do with that item. First off, you got to find it. And if you find it, it's either got a tag or it don't. If it's got a tag and we hit the wrong barcode, vendors have barcodes on them, right? Manufacturers have barcodes. Our scanner could hit the wrong barcode, and we know the answer. Then we're just going to say item lookup. We're gonna fix it, right? We're gonna go out and find the right item, and just make that be that item, right? And it'll clear itself. Or we're gonna pick the item up, move it to the trouble area, and we're gonna clear it out of that zone, right? One or the other. But we don't hold the show up for one item, right? So then back here on imported, here's all the items. We have to merge those. Yes. And I'm going to pause right here because I want to go look at admin console. I don't know if it's in this version or if it's the next version, but node selection in the company, above the stores, collapse the damn top, go down to merchandise, go down to PI sheet, and let's see, is it here? Oh, right. So this is a new switch, right? Because you import them and you have to merge them, but then you have to merge them into the count. The zone itself has to be merged. So there's like two merges, right? So on the newer versions in 2.4.1, you can check this off, and I think we can skip that first merge, right? Save yourself a keystroke. All right, so let's go back to let's go back to here, but let's go over here. So the process, step 2, right, is what we're talking about now, right? We have to create a zone, a little housing for that scan. We have to go scan the items, and we have to add counts, portable scanner, upload the device, or import them like I am, right? You could do a count sheet and you could save it as CSV. We've already established that these files here, these are just CSV, right? I just saved them as TXT because it likes a TXT ending. But this is, you could be in Excel, you could export a report to Excel filtered for a group of items, and you could then go count those items, then delete off the descriptions and just keep the count in the SKU. That's all you need, right? And then you could upload it just like I am. Depends on the product and what the best solution for counting it is, right? If there are errors, we got to locate and resolve those, right? Either we fixed it, like I fixed it, or we clear it and move the item to an area where it'll get scanned. Now, dumb scanners, the old dumb scanners like the Percon PT and even the Janum, some of those other scanners, we would have to clear the scanner, or it would have continued to count on top of the first scan. It would accumulate more, right? So I don't think we have that problem much, honestly, in Prism. We're either using a smart scanner or you've got a different method. Like the scanning app that's on my phone, it utilizes just basically email. It emails a CSV. So you name it and you email it, and then you start a new batch, right? So the batches are separated by name anyway. So we don't really have that clear thing much anymore. Print the zone out and double check it to whatever is appropriate for your environment. I'm going to say that I'm not going to double check a tub full of chapstick, but I probably would double check a rounder of leather coats. Probably do the whole thing, right? I mean, use your head on this one, right? Make sure we merge the zone, and once we do that for all zones. So if you have a map and you know where all the zones are and you're checking them off as you go, and you've uploaded every zone, that means you've accounted for everything that could possibly be in the store. I like a full physical inventory. A cycle inventory is tricky because you're not counting the whole store, so something could get missed, right? If it was in the cycle, but in the wrong spot. But in a full physical, you're going to count A to Z. You're going to count the front door to the back door, right? And you're going to account for every space that potentially could have freight, including under the service desk, right? Because, I mean, people put things under the service desk. They shouldn't, but they do, right? So once we've gone through the entire process, all the way through every zone, right? So let's get back to our zones here: merchandise, physical inventory, and go back into PI sheet, go back into zones. Okay, so we uploaded this one, and we cleared the one scan. It's got 21 because I I added a bogus item and we fixed it, right? So then if we would then go into that and probably print that out, and I don't have a decent print job, and we just did that. It's kind of embarrassing, but I could give you a print job that's better if you don't have one. So then in here we would say actions, and you could mark all, or you could mark one at a time. I like to mark them one at a time just because of this merge column right here. Then at a glance, I've got a built-in checklist that says, these 5 have been scanned and double checked, and these 5 down here have been scanned but not double checked. You want to double check one of these? You know what I mean? There's always something to do in physical inventory, right? Plenty to do for everyone. Lots of fun. So once we have identified all of our zones, counted them, double checked them, we feel they're accurate as far as we know, right? That means we're done with step 2. Now, when we're done with step 2, it's a very important juncture, shall we say, in this process that we're talking about here. Where's my damn count code? There it is. All right, so this line here actually has a reason that it's there. So that represents to me the point at which we could open the store and start making sales. So there's an issue with being open and selling product while you're scanning. And I don't know if everybody understands that issue, but we're going to understand it in about a minute here, right? So I've got a little sort of set of numbers down here that sort of walks you through the process, right? So let's just say there's 10. We believe there's 10, right? So we hit the start button, and when we hit the start button, we just hit the start button when there's no count in there yet. So we're short everything, right? So we go count, we happen to count 8. Well, that changes our discrepancy to 2, correct? And so when we hit the update button, it's going to put this 8 in inventory. Next contestant. No, it's not. It's going to take the current quantity 10 and add to that the difference. So it's going to take 10 plus -2, put that in inventory. What's the difference? 10 plus -2 is 8, and 8 is 8, right? Well, the difference is if I then made some sales while I was evaluating my discrepancies and I sold 5, then I would have 5. I can't put 8 in inventory if I have only 5 left. I have to take the 5, take the shortage off, and put 3 in. And if I had 8 and sold 5, I'd have 3, right? So when it updates, it takes the current quantity on hand and applies the discrepancy to that quantity, right? That's how it works, which is incredibly powerful. So if we're closed in the morning and we count the sales floor, then we open it and start making sales. Anything that was scanned can be sold, right? Then I could scan the back room, and when I'm done with that, I can start doing my discrepancies. And then once I've scanned the back room, they can pull product from it and sell it, right? And at the end of the day, when I hit the update button, it'll take care of itself. I don't have to worry about it. But what if I sell an item before I count it? And that's what's happening down here, right? So in the example I have, we have 8. We're going to count 8, but we can't count 8 because we sold one, right? So we only count 7. We get a discrepancy of 3, but the on hand, because the on hand is alive, it changes, right? So now when we do the math, 9 plus -3, that ain't working. That's not 7, is it? So we're double dipping, right? The sales taking it out of inventory, and because we didn't count it, we're taking it out of inventory. We're double accounting for that item leaving the building because we didn't count it. As long as you count it, you're golden. If you don't count it, it's going to double dip, right? So, so this is a very important line in my little diagram here. And there's lots of ways to do this. We used to be open all day, and at 6 o'clock we would close. And now you got to know at 2 o'clock, I'm loading these scanners up with zones in the stockroom, right? I can't upload them yet because I don't have a physical. I didn't hit the start button. They got nothing to send them to yet, right? But as soon as I lock the door at 6 o'clock and hit the start button, you got to know I'm sending the whole stockroom in. Boom, right? And then I hit the floor. So either come in early and get the floor down, knocked down, or close early and get the stockroom knocked down, right? Especially if you have those Foundry Logic scanners, because they can hold multiple zones named, all pretty, ready to go, ready to be uploaded. You know what I mean? So, all right, that brings us to discrepancy. So once we've hit the start button and we've counted all of our stuff, then we're in the discrepancy phase, and yes, we can make sales. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, don't start the discrepancy at 2 o'clock. Go to home, get some sleep, come in fresh. You can make sales while you're doing this piece, right? Now, there is a discrepancy mode. So if we close this zone mode and back up one layer, right? Right here, there is a place where we can say discrepancy, and we could say print. And I think I have a discrepancy one. Now, the problem with discrepancy, this is one of my clients, the design I made for somebody. The problem with this, I mean, there are discrepancies, right? There's our start, there's our count, there's our shortage, right? This works, but it doesn't. I don't know why. They left the cost out of their scheme. So you can't put the cost. You can't know which item is the most expensive item that you're saying you lost, right? So slightly awkward. I mean, this works in a pinch. You certainly can see your discrepancies and go check them. I did, however, make I did make someplace in here a report. I've got a bunch of them, apparently. So I'm just going to run this one here and see what this looks like, right? Right. So I made a discrepancy report that does the same thing, but does have the cost difference over here and the price difference. So, and this is something I have up on our network that any tech could install for you. I have it in an import file, a KRR file for Crunch that could be dropped into Crunch. So this is one of two reports I made for physical inventory. I think this is the other one. We're going to try it and find out, right? All right, so does everybody see what this one's doing? What is this? What's the point of this report? Anybody got an idea yet? This is to backtrack from the item to the zones, right? A real life scenario is I had a client up in Fairbanks that they were counting their store and they had a rounder full of coats, very handy in Fairbanks. And they had 3 coats on the rounder. They looked at their count and it said they had 63 coats. And they went, the zone has 3, the zone count has 3, but the physical has 63. Where's the other 60? This tells you, right? This says what you counted in each zone, right? On the far right-hand side, each item is being displayed, right, with the item's ALU. So item 10002 was counted in men's, store men's 001 and SAC women's 001 with a count of 2 in each zone, right? So we ran this similar kind of report. This is a few versions ago, but we had this report for that too. And we found out that somebody fat fingered that SKU in the jewelry counter, which begs the question, which is more expensive, the jewelry item or the coat, right? So we figured it out. They went back and looked at the order of scanning and they found that SKU in there and they said, okay, that we know what we missed now. And they corrected it, right? Because sometimes you need to backtrack. Once you've got, I mean, I have 2 zones, but in real life, you're going to have 70 zones or 100 zones. Or when I was a store manager at, I used to be a store manager at Marshalls, and we used to do RGIS counts, and we would do 1 through 500 in men's, 501 through 1,000 in women's. You know, we didn't use all those numbers. We used a lot of them though. So we had a lot of zones, but then the little stores are like 22,000 square feet. So um, yeah, if you don't know what zone's tainted, it's really nice to have this report to backtrack and find out where you made the mistake and then go deeper into that zone and figure out what happened, right? So these 2 reports, they exist, like I said, on our network and could be loaded pretty easily for anybody who wanted to. I would always recommend, doing a quick, if you're doing physical inventory, this kind of environment is great. But if it's going to be like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 weeks before you actually do inventory, then I would get like a one-on-one with any of the techs just to have them walk you through it and make sure you're super fresh on the process right before you bite off on that whole thing, right? Um, yeah, so yeah, up on our network here on our T drive, I have these PI reports. There's the import file right there. So if we were just to import this in the back end of Crunch, you'd have a PI group just like this, except that it would only have 2 items in there. All this other crap here, which we could get rid of, honestly. These were earlier attempts well, we're just going to waste time deleting it now and during a webinar. But the point is, there's only 2 reports we really need there, right? So so we then work our our um, our discrepancy report, right? And we find mistakes. Now, you can't really change them here, right? So let's say I wanted to, let's say we want to take this one back. So 113 we want to take back, and I want to give it to 112, right? How can I do that easily, right? Um, the best way I found actually, and I like this, I used to do this in version 8, but it was complicated and very difficult in version 8. It didn't work well, so no one else did it. Um, I would just go back to make a zone, and I would say, this is my fixes or my corrections or whatever, right? And then a number one or whatever I need, right? I would create the zone. I would go in the zone, and I would say zone sheet, would go to add counts, and I would type in what I want. So if I'm going to take like 0000113, and I'm going to tab, and say -1. So that's the beauty in this version N9. You can count negative numbers. So it's a blessing, man. In version 8, you'd have to find every item and change it, and find an item and change it, and it's a billion finds. And then if you make a typo, there's no audit trail. You don't know what you screwed up, right? Where here I can say, look, take that one back, and no item found. Nice. I screwed up my input. I thought it was 000113, right? Guess not. Maybe my lookups are screwed up right here. Yeah, apparently. Or maybe I'm not looking up by ALUs. I don't know. That's weird. All right, so if I can do it this way, I never tried it this way. Now, see, it's not going to let me, but it's okay. Let's see. Close. Yeah, so I got my -1 in there, right? And so we go back. I don't think my lookups are screwed here, but yeah, if I'd had more time to prepare, maybe it would have worked, right? Um, really? Right. So you can take one back from one and give it to the other. So you could just sit there if you had a list of mistakes you'd made, like it was a peg hook, there was a 2 dozen on there, but the back dozen was something else, and the guy scanned the first one and said 24, right? And then we got in there and found it when we were in discrepancy phase that, yep, the back 12 are actually a different item. So take 12 away from this one and give it back to that item. We could just do that right here in a zone. So we could just sit here and key in all of our changes we want to make from the printouts where people have circled it and wrote little notes, right? And if you had a page from this person and a page from that one, you could do more than one zone, right? And then you have to merge those over into the scanned section, right? And then you have to close that and merge that to make the change, right? So then you'd have to merge that actions mark actions merge marked, and it just wouldn't change those items or as many items as you wanted to change, right? So that's the best way I found to make changes quick and easy and leave a nice clean audit trail in case you have to follow the audit trail for some reason, right? So now let's see, if I go back here and I run, I got a PI here. This is way down here because I write way too many reports. And I run this here, right? And we find 112. Okay, apparently I didn't count that one. I must have got it wrong. That's weird. All right. So, oh no, that's the one that I added, right? 3 was the one. Yeah, so we counted it and then I pulled it back. See, that's the one that that was my correction item, wasn't it? Oh, sure, I picked the only item that wasn't in my other scans. All right, still, there's the audit trail, right? I added it in a zone, and it turns out I added it manually, and then I took it back because I got the wrong item, maybe, right? All right, so all right, so then we've gone through steps 1, 2, and basically 3, right? So 3, we would print that discrepancy report out. We could filter it, right? We could say, Susie, you're going to do women's, and Johnny, you're going to do men's, or vice versa, right? We could divide it up any way we want to, print that out, have people go check the things that are relevant, and then come back and give us the corrections. We make all the corrections. And honestly, if every zone was counted with horse blinders on and every zone was perfect, we should find nothing to correct, right? But every physical I do, like, we're human beings, man. We make mistakes. I don't know what else to say, right? So, um, so once we get our discrepancies all done and we've corrected everything we know of to correct, we believe this count is solid now. This thing is perfect. It's as good as it's going to be, right? That brings us to accept the numbers, right? To update. That's the last step, right? And that's easy. So to accept the numbers, once we have done all of our zones here, we're going to close the zones. We can back one more step out of here, right? And we can say, check off our physical, and then at the bottom it says update PI, right? We say update PI, pick the reason code. The reason code is so incredibly important, right? That you get the right reason code, right? On the top, it should be defaulting to all items. Do not change that. In version 8, there was a bug that it defaulted to quantities only. And I think everybody hopefully gets why. If not, I probably should tell you, right? But there, basically, if you have a starting quantity of 2 and you didn't count it, it needs to go to 0. If you didn't count it, it's because we don't have it, right? But it doesn't have a quantity. You didn't count it. So if you say quantities only, it's not getting updated. It's not going to 0. You're going to pass that shrink on to the next inventory, right? So if you didn't count it, you don't have it. All items get updated. If they don't have a count, then they go straight to 0, right? And this is going to make a giant adjustment memo, right? That's what this is going to do. So when we click update here, that's it, man. It's done, right? So let's go see what it did. So if we go to store operations, merchandise, adjustment memo, we hit search, we should have so here you see the reasons physical, but more importantly, the source is physical, right? I don't know why we got one here with no source. That's weird. See, here's some manual ones right here, right? But in fact, everybody's adjustment memos are 90+% automatic. Their source is inventory or markdown tool or the voucher changing the price, which vouchers don't change price, but when they do, they make a memo, right? So there's a lot of sources other than us. But yes, we could still go make one manually, right? We could just go down to the quantity adjustment and say, make one manually, right? It's just that most people don't, right? If you want to change the quantity, you go in inventory, you change it, it says why, you say this one was damaged, right? If you want to change price, nobody cares. If you change cost, I'm going to say why. Nobody changes cost once they own the item, right? So it's really quantity changes is 99% of these. And this is a quantity change. So options, look up, search. So right there, though, this made one. I don't know how I got another one. That's weird. But it's in progress. It got temporarily saved, and I didn't abort it right or something. All right, whatever. So this one here has numbers right now. Of course, this is a sandbox, and this is complete garbage data, right? But if this was real, right, we would have lost 454.43 items. Apparently, we have some decimal quantities turned on, right? And it would have a cost threshold difference, right? So somehow we lost. Somehow we picked up $6,000. I'm not sure what's going on with that exactly. Oh, I know what's going on with that. Yeah, this is a sandbox. So I sit here and hammer away on this training and testing, and I sold way into the negative, didn't I? So all those negative items had to come back up to 0. That's an overage, right? Yeah, so you can't trust a sandbox data, right? So, but in real life, you'd have an adjustment memo or adjustment memos, plural, because there's a limit to how many SKUs can go in an adjustment memo, right? So It might be two or three. I mean, the old limit used to be 900 SKUs. So if you had 3,000 adjustments, you'd have four documents, right? It'd be 900, 900, 900, and the remaining 300. So, and you can run reports on those, right? So in Crunch, absolutely can run reports on those. I've made better reports, and I'm still toying around with that for adjustment memos. But if we go to quantity, um, yeah, so there's your basic quantity adjustment thing right there. If we were to run this here with a filter, right, and we were to say, this is Crunch 12, so Crunch 13 is out too, right? But in Crunch 12, you can you got the bottom filter thing right there where you can turn to talk and apparently navigate at the same time. And it's not working out real well for me, right? Uh, I think it was uppers and lowers, right? So you can just type it in. You don't have to build a prefab filter for it if you want to do that. You could just say, hey, filter for the word physical, and then give me a sum of the whatever's in the report, right? So this one's not very good. We need a cost difference, and I could certainly do that for you. It's a pretty easy thing to do. And we got nothing because it was apparently uppers and lowers, or apparently I typed it in wrong. It's good, right? Um, yeah, all groups. Let's try. This is the cost memos, right? Yeah, but this is the format that I'm looking for. I'm looking for yeah. So I have made reports and I feel foolish because don't have them loaded, but it's not really a adjustment memo webinar. But usually, if I was going to look at these, I'd look at them by transaction, and I would subtotal them by store and type. So it would be store one, a damage subtotal, store one, physical inventory subtotal, store one, you know, store use subtotal, right? And it would just list all the different reasons and give you a total for each one of those, which is a report I have created. I just don't happen to have it loaded here, but we could easily get you that report if that's something you wanted. It's a nice report at the end of the month because it shows you the transaction, not the items, because the accounting doesn't care about the items. They just care about the transactions, maybe, but more likely they care about the subtotal. If you had damaged out, I don't know, 36 different times this month of various items, do they want to make 36 accounting entries or one for damage, right? Probably one if they're doing this at the end of the month. Um, but it's still a nice way to quickly sum the physical inventory adjustments, right? And of course, I could find it and maybe upload it, but all right. So trying to think if we've missed anything in our journey here through physical inventory, and I can't think of anything, but I certainly would be interested to know if anybody has any questions about anything to do with physical inventory, or if you're coming up on one soon, you have questions about it, you could throw them into the chat. You could answer. I could turn your microphone on. Either way. I mean, this stuff here. I mean, I could put this here. Um, Copy. This is my silly little cheat sheet, right, that I use as an outline, but I think it's a clean, solid outline, right? So I just threw that in the chat. If anybody wants to copy it out of the chat and drop it into a notepad, you could, right? It just, for me, it keeps me at the right level, right? The high level, right? So that I know step one, done step one, okay, step two, do step two, okay, step two's done, now do step three, right? Because you never go backwards, you never repeat steps, right? It happens in that order every time, the same way every time. Every fiscal doesn't matter. Even when I was at May Company, Southern California, except that they would take step three, the discrepancies, and they would have us managers go into downtown and research stuff for months. There had to be diminishing returns on the amount of payroll they were spending to find, you know, $20 that we screwed up in receiving. But they're not in business anymore, which maybe is an indicator, right? So anyway, any questions? Nothing. I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see. Is it clear? Is there anything I need to go back over? All right. So you're very welcome, Matt. It was good to see you, man. Um, um, all right. I'm going to tell you to have a good rest of your day, and me and the Ducks are going to go play. See you guys. Bye bye.